so inclined. All right. Ooh, he brought an amp, too.
It's like a Seinfeld interview. It's like, this is the interview.
That's it. There's nothing.
There's nothing. It's about nothing.
Well, my most recent discovery in this area is the origin of the word sus.
Yeah,
because I was sussing out a sus chord. And a sus chord, of course, means suspended,
Yeah.
Right.
up or down. And I thought, well, I was making a pun, and I thought, well, wait a minute, what is sus as in sort out, figure out, you know?
But it's also slang. Like you're being sus right now. Like suspicious or shady.
Yeah. Well, that's where it actually comes. It turns out, after Googling it, if they're right, it's British police slang from the 50s, coming from the word suspect.
Oh, that makes sense.
Both noun and
I feel like I'm learning so much.
and verb.
Get this on you. We're rolling.
I don't know if any guitar will show up in here, but I'd just like to have one around.
You know what was funny? Russell brought that up. We just you seem most comfortable with a guitar in your hand.
Yeah.
We like that.
It gets me out of trouble.
I tell you, that's exactly what I say to people.
You see the Dio,
The Dio
Positive
rope
grid?
cloth.
Oh, look at
and
that.
that's great.
It will spark some creativity.
Magnetic or
Trail of broken heart, crawling back again. Now I'm from the start, and God will come again. The God's been alive, and
beautiful. Have to ask you, favorite
Have you heard
Beatles
that song?
No. What is it?
Katie Lang, Trail of Broken Hearts.
She is a great voice.
Trail of, just such a good vibrato.
Yeah.
It's like the best vibrato training in the world.
Yeah. It's
maybe-
it's a
maybe.
beautiful melody.
Either that, because the other one I was working on was I can see the. Yeah, look in my eye.
Yeah.
And then recently, the other one is in F, which got such. It took me a while to figure these chords because Ben Mink, the guitar player, has a capo
Yeah.
live, so I was looking. I can't figure out what he's doing with the capo.
Well, an F is mean.
But the third chord is my favorite chord, dominant sus.
That's nice.
That was the sus. That's where suspect came from.
Right.
Because there's two sus chords in a row, sus 4 and sus 2.
Yep.
Which I might be making up myself, but I hear it that way. And then that's the.
I don't know the name of the song, but I know the melody.
When the Saints come marching in.
And then the harmonies.
What song is that?
Constant Craving.
That one, Constant Craving.
Yes.
And you know who played with her?
No.
John 5. John 5.
But John 5?
He played with Katie Lang before he played with Halford, yeah.
Not on that track.
No, I don't think he played on
Okay.
that, no.
What's
You were
that?
saying John 5 played with Katie Lang.
He did.
Yeah.
He helped get me your autograph.
Let's hear about
I have
that.
about 5 autographs. I've got Katie Lang, Donny Osmond, the Spice Girls,
Uh-huh.
Tom Jones, and I had Randy Rhoads, but it got lost when I moved to California.
How did you get the Spice Girls?
I was in Japan doing some interviews,
Yeah.
and my translator mentioned that the next one she was doing was the Spice Girls, and I had only brought one CD with me to Japan, and it was the Spice Girls CD. and I said, "Could you get this? Can you get this signed?" Yeah.
All of them.
And all of them. Ginger, and I think after that, Ginger had left.
Okay.
So I managed to get.
It's like the Beatles breaking up. I know.
Yeah. I got all of them, and I don't know if it's a Fuzz cover, but the reason I had brought that CD was I was working on a cover of "To Become One,"
Okay.
which I changed the key to fit my voice, but the candlelight and so forever, dream of me and you together. Say you believe it. Say you believe it.
Yeah,
There's
sus.
dominant sus4.
Yep.
Come a little bit closer, baby. Get it on, cause tonight is the night when two become one. Some people call this a sus chord, but I just think of it as the chord of the 70s.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Where you got like a major chord,
Sure.
which is E,
Yeah.
and you go up a whole step, put the bass note, or vice versa.
Your F
You
sharp?
have a major chord, and you take the chord down a whole step.
Yeah, very yacht rock,
That's the
sure.
yacht rock magic, right
which is
there.
nothing wrong with that. That's a beautiful thing.
And speaking of yacht rock,
Here we go.
The Captain. I figured out this one out this morning was.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of that.
Here's a stretch right here.
Great chords.
Same yacht rock chord. Keep it together. Okay, let's talk about shred heavy metal.
Yeah, let's talk about what happened. My first question really is around melody. We were just talking about this earlier.
We were.
Is your love for melody, can you pinpoint the rough time when you started to really, I don't want to say get obsessed, but really have this growing desire to keep learning more unique melodies for your playing?
Well, the beginning of the story was that's what I was into before I ever played guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting thought experiment to think about, anybody who plays guitar. Do you remember what it was like when you couldn't?
Yeah.
You wanted to.
Yeah.
You'd looked at it like, where do I put the fingers? And I remember that. And I remember I had melodies in my head, both, sort of riff-like things and vocal melodies from being a fan of Beatles and Elton John and 70s radio. Then as you get into guitar, it's hard to resist the guitar vocabulary. The teacher will show you, the
Right.
Jimmy Page solos, and those are really cool. And that's when you start farming out the melody to the singer.
Sure.
It's like, that's not my job.
Sure.
Let Robert Plant do the melody, and then I'll,
Page it up.
I'll do my blues licks at whatever level of fire is appropriate or wonderfully inappropriate. and so I basically being a guitar player.
Yeah.
In that style, and then maybe like two things. Because I always loved melody, but I didn't think I was the one to do it. And then going on tour with G3, with Joe Satriani, and he's, there's no singer. He's playing melodies, and they work great, and the audience digs it, and I dug it too. And see that live was more powerful than having a song come on the radio once in a while.
Sure.
So that experience was good. And then also Andy Timmons did a record
Beatles
of the Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah.
And that was on in the car. I was being driven somewhere, and I thought, wow, this is amazing that he played Sgt. Pepper. But then I realized it was a single guitar.
Right.
Yep. Live. No
Now,
overdub.
Sgt. Pepper
Yeah.
is not. It's not like a simple production. There's all the orchestra and harmonies, and he's doing it with a 3-piece band and no singing.
Right.
And I just listened, and I realized like he's sort of covering, like when you're a human being listening to the music, certainly you hear the whole picture, but you also tend to gravitate toward what is emphasized.
Sure.
So it might be the singer when they're singing, but when the singer stops, then your ear goes to something else, and you sort of follow the lead part, whatever it is. And Andy did a really good job of sussing out whatever the lead part was, and then if the instrument allowed, maybe throw in an extra bass note,
right,
or that sort of thing. So, inspired by that, I worked up things like the Rocky theme, where you're going, and being able to shut out the thumb. Now that's the melody, but I throw in just one note. A lot of with distortion, you can't really get away with more than one note.
Right.
I mean, more than two notes together. And then was it able to get that melody, but also have the. I guess there I just contradicted myself. The way I solve it is I kind of sweep through it.
Yeah.
That way, because if you just bang at it, it's not going to come out.
That's how I would have played
it. I don't know what it's, if they had a Moog or something that did that sound.
Right.
Well, so that kind of the whole part of what you're talking about, a lot of guitar players are obsessed with shredding and playing fast, which we know you did back in the day.
I was and am to some extent too.
Well, and it's fun. I mean, that should still exist.
It's the fire.
But you also have quite a toolbox. It seems like you're restless in the sense of you want to learn melody, you want to play slide, you want to play fast, you want to compose, you want to sing. We even have pictures of you playing drums. Where's the line in the sand? I mean, is there anything off topic or anything you won't?
No. Lots of stuff that when I try it, if it just is uncomfortable and sounds bad when I do it, I don't want to sound bad. And sometimes there's workarounds. And that's kind of the interesting thing of each player is like, for example, hybrid picking is something maybe just because I was a nail biter for a long time.
Yeah.
I've matured now. I use clippers, but my nails, I'm used to them being short.
Yeah.
And you need a nail. So like maybe if somebody was like a classical guitar player and they were comfortable with long nails, they'd be like, oh, hybrid picking, I can already do it.
Right.
For me, like, first of all, I just don't have the thing, the tool's gone. And I also developed, I call it like the shoulder pull, where if I need to go, that's the hardest thing to pick in the world, to go from like the lowest string to the highest string quickly and have it where it's not, I mean, you have the control of it where you can make it staccato. And that's not hybrid picking. I'm using my shoulder to like a saw, and that's really useful. So, something like this, that's one of the hardest things to play on guitar because you have to go across three strings really fast.
Right.
Now, a sweep picker might go, well, I can sweep that faster. Well, you can once, but then you have to get back to the beginning again.
Right.
So the rhythm gets screwed up. It ends up being these little mini glissandos. If the song calls for mini glissandos, you're all set. But if you want like a solid triplet, and you don't want it to blur together, because usually most people, it gets kind of blurry. If it's the blurry part of the song, which often it is, like in rock, but if you want it staccato, it's nice to have the option.
Someone's been practicing.
And to be able to have that, I like having that sound. It reminds me of Michael Schenker.
It definitely does. I can hear that. But to me, the point of what I was asking is that you are the type of guitar player that can use a lot of technique, but not really necessarily be ostentatious about it. There could be a lot of what you're doing. You know what you're doing when you do it, but it's not like, hey, look at me. It's just, if it serves the song, so be it.
I'm smiling because you used a great word. Ostentation.
Yeah, well, I was an English
major. This is, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this.
Well, you sure?
I bought a belt on the internet. This belt, I bought it from AmishMadeBelts.com.
Oh, they're good. really
It's a
nice.
great belt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, after that, I looked up, and guess who doesn't wear belts?
Billy Sheehan.
Amish people.
Oh.
You know why?
No.
They're ostentatious.
Is that why?
In
seen as-
Amish
It's
culture,
too flashy.
belts are considered to be ostentatious. But then,
Oh.
so I thought, well, the thing is, you don't have to wear it, but it's okay to make it and sell it.
Wow.
So they're more suspenders.
And
that's pretty
exactly.
sus. There's a
Another
theme.
sus.
All full circle.
All right, we're done. No, I'm kidding. That's pretty
So
wild.
in a way, that's currently where I am with shred guitar.
Okay.
I'm kind of, to me, it's kind of ostentatious,
was an
but I can make
object
it and sell it.
Was. Do you need help with that? Should we cut so he puts his belt back on? Do the
So that was a
magic?
good object lesson.
That's pretty wild. You know, you should start playing with a belt instead of a pick. That would be kind of different.
I think I saw Joe Perry do that.
Did he really?
He did.
There's
he did
nothing new.
or no, I'm sorry, it wasn't a belt. It was his shirt.
He played with his
He did a
shirt?
shirt solo.
Okay.
Wow.
Like he brought a guitar with an open tuning and went out on the the ostentatious ramp in the arena, and he had been working out, so he took off his
Stripped it
shirt.
off.
He's looking great,
Yeah, ripped.
and put the guitar on the ground, and he starts whipping the guitar with his shirt. Damn, a shirt solo.
Yeah.
I'm nowhere near to the point of doing a shirt
You could
solo.
work on that. That's something you could put that in there. But, it's also funny because we're here, obviously you're touring with Mr. Big, and between you and Billy, I mean, it could easily get ostentatious if you wanted it to. You could pull the drills out and do all that.
Yeah, well, we're playing songs from our ostentatious period.
As
so
you should.
It's in there.
Right.
Don't
But-
worry, you'll get your money's worth.
But isn't
We're selling the belt.
Isn't the irony that, an acoustic ballad is one of your biggest hits, something where you're not really showing off necessarily, and it's a well-crafted song?
When the world gives you a number one hit, you don't
take
worry
it.
about irony.
No.
You're just like, bring it on.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Can we have one more, sir?
All right, fair enough.
Hey, so you're Andy Timmons when you were referring to melody with what he did with that album, and it was done on one guitar. My understanding is that he did that album, didn't really go back to dial in the parts. He almost wanted to just see what he would remember and recall.
He said it from memory.
Right? And so you did Dio. And to me, I was thinking in terms of so you picked Dio, you did melodies on the guitars. It was multi-tracked, so it wasn't all one guitar. The leads sound so vocal. Like, in addition to you doing the melodies, they have a timbre to them, a tone quality. What was your approach to going for those lead tones with that in mind?
Well, a lot of it was, to shape a word. I don't have a mouth where I can shape like that. So the closest that I can get to it, just with my hands, is pick harmonics.
Okay.
And it could, and also with muting. So, for example, if you have a, but if I've got, that's more. So if I contrast those, that can imitate a word.
Sure.
And it was funny. I found myself using. I've got some old Ibanez's from the early '80s that are sort of like a Strat. They got 21 frets.
Yep.
Which gives you a little more room for pick harmonics.
Okay.
You don't bump into the last fret. And I found myself using those all the time because I had a little more. In fact, even after I did the record, I had a guitar modified so it would have 20 frets. So I'd get even more room to do pick harmonics. A lot of the magic happens right around there.
Okay.
But, you just search for it. And depending on where you are, you get a different harmonic.
Was there any type of gear that you used on those tracks to help accentuate that?
Distortion.
Just any,
Because that brings
distortion.
out the
From amp
small
or pedal?
the small details. So any kind of distortion, whether it's from a pedal or an amp, or most of the gear, I was just kind of having fun because I did it at home, so all my stuff's there.
Okay.
So I'd look around, what guitar will I use today? So it was just whatever. There no system other than what just made me interested in it.
Sure.
And to me, another big part of trying to play like a vocalist is the vibrato.
Yep.
And so there's different ways you can get that with whammy bar or with your hand. And of course the hands, there's a myriad of approaches, and then the slide as well. So between those three, I don't think I used the whammy. I don't know if I ever used a whammy for anything.
A whammy pedal or a whammy bar?
Whammy bar.
Okay.
Yeah. If I did, it wasn't much. And then I also had a guitar with a sustainer pickup, and there was one, because if on a normal guitar, if you hit a note, the attack is loud, and it's only going to get quieter.
Yep.
And unless you luck out and you get have a loud amp and it happens to grab it with feedback.
Yep.
But with that sustainer thing, I could do the, what is it? We are coming home. And I had a delay pedal, and it was just perfect.
Ring out.
And but that took some setup.
Yeah.
I'd tell the engineer, give me about 10 minutes. I got to plug some stuff in, get the special guitar, and then hit the delay pedal right, at the right tempo. And
yeah,
the delay pedal I like that has a really small knob, and if you have it a little off, it's not the right tempo. So, but it was all worth it.
And as you continue to shape your tone, like Ryan was saying earlier, and constantly exploring and pushing the boundaries for yourself, blues, even just the new album, the new single for Mr. Big,
oh yeah,
seems to be heavily blues infused, if it's fair to say.
Well, so much of the new album, I feel like my contribution was like a little bit as a guitar player, but mostly as like a writer and doing the pre-production and playing the drums on the demos, and like it wouldn't have happened if I wasn't a drummer.
Yeah,
the album wouldn't have happened. Just because our schedules, everybody's busy.
Yeah,
and to get the song rolling,
you took the mantle.
I've got to be able to do all those jobs. So I made really well-formed demos.
Sure.
And then at the end, it was like, oh, I got to play guitar? Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. But in the writing, like that tune, I'm proud of it because the song structure changes in such I think, a creative way. Because it starts off with a certain groove, it's like manic depression, but in 4. And then it goes into a straight like 6/8 blues, and then it changes to like just these big bonks,
right?
And within kind of an unusual length of time. So it's and not to compare myself to the Beatles, but to compare that where I got that kind of idea. A song like Revolution, the verse is all blues chords,
right?
But it goes a little longer than you expect to match Lennon's vocal line. And it makes it a whole new animal. You're not sitting thinking, oh, another blues song. It's not at all. It really takes on a life of its own. And it all sort of goes with the vocal. And that's what I had. I'd written the lyrics, and then you have to figure out, how to support them. And that's kind of where the fun begins. It's so much harder to do it the other way.
Yeah. Which
I've certainly done.
Yep.
And since I'm a guitar player, I'll write the guitar part, and then you got to squeeze the vocals in. And that's, if you're Robert Plant, if you got Robert Plant in the band, maybe they can do it, but that's rough on a singer.
So did you demo that whole song yourself before bringing it to?
Yeah.
Okay, from top to bottom.
It's funny because I actually couldn't play the drum part properly, so I would just leave the cymbal out in the part where I couldn't do double strokes. Okay. So it'd be like cymbal, 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 no cymbal. Cymbal, 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 no cymbal.
Got the job done. So another topic was cover bands. I didn't realize until looking how many cover bands that you've been a part of over the years, from Hammer of the Gods with Zeppelin, Beatles, The Who, and perhaps there's even others that I'm missing.
Katie Lang.
How do you enter into those groups with your mindset? Are you kind of looking to do your own interpretation? Are you looking to dial in something that's relatively true? Like, I've heard that. What's your kind of approach to the cover when you're going on those tours?
The live ones were all with Mike Portnoy, organized those. And those were, we're trying to be somewhat true to the originals. And if, with a guitar solo, if you can get a sense from listening to the original, if the spirit of the solo was a melody that's meant to be reproduced, or if it was, somebody improvising and the spirit of it is more improvisational, which gives you license to do your own thing, or some combination of the two. So that's what I did for those. When we did the Beatles, I wasn't shredding on every song, because to me, a lot of the Beatles solos are melodies.
Right.
I don't want to mess that up. But I'd say for more like when I'm recording something, then I might take it somewhere else. For the Dio stuff, I didn't. For the Dio stuff, I tried to be pretty strict. Some of the solos I changed up a little bit, but overall, I wanted to keep it sounding like Dio. But for example, I did that Spice Girls song, and I don't know. Actually, I wanted to keep that one kind of like the Spice Girls do. I just can't sing as high as they can, so I can put it in a lower key. But I like the process of translation.
That's what I was.
You know, of taking something that was made for one instrument and translating it to another and see what happens. And so, because I like that, I've done a lot of songs that were originally sung by women. I did I Feel the Earth Move by Carole King. Okay. I did Dancing Queen by ABBA. Did I Feel Love by Donna Summer. Mm-hmm. Of course, the Spice Girls song. This is probably more I haven't thought of. But, you know, in order to do that, I can never sing as high. You know, they have a different instrument. You know, women have higher voices, just the nature of what how they're born. And so I've got to solve that problem, and that's an interesting problem.
Yeah.
And then for instrumental stuff too, I've covered a lot of classical stuff that is, you know, I never play a classical guitar piece. I'll pick like a piano or harpsichord or cello or that sort of thing.
Yep.
So, you know, for example, there's a harpsichord piece I did, and you can't do vibrato on a harpsichord. So their solution is a trill. So the line was like, you know, so that, you know, on guitar it'd be, you know, it'd have vibrato.
Right. Harpsichord's literally incapable of doing that. Yeah.
And it sort of gives you this, you know, ruffly shirt,
right.
French aristocracy,
Wig.
whatever, yeah, powdered wig sound, which is fun to play with that.
Sure, of course. So tell us about the Ibanez that you're playing too. This is
this is Ibanez Fireman, and the original idea was I'm of course a fan of like Paul Stanley from Kiss and Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick, and both those guys are known for playing the Ibanez Iceman,
yep,
which has this part on the bottom. And this top part just goes straight through with no cutaway. Mm-hmm. And when I first started to figure out Photoshop, you know, I would put guitars in there and mess around with them.
Frankenstein them.
Flip, you know, it's easy to flip something upside down in Photoshop, and then you get the eraser tool and make a cutaway. And I sent in the my idea of the at the time I called it the reverse Iceman to Ibanez, and I thought they'll never make this. It's just it's you know, it's just too silly. And then they wrote, you know, sent me the email back. I went, oh, sure, we'll get right to work on it. Really? And then I got it, and I thought, like, you know, I liked it. I mean, that's why I did it.
Yeah.
But I thought, I don't know if it's really going to be any good. And I tried to loved it.
Really?
Really, just the way it resonated. Something was special about it.
Yeah.
And it felt good standing up and sitting down. There's good balance. And you know, ever since then, I mean, that was probably 2004 or something.
It's been a while.
So it's been about 20 years of the Fireman. Mm-hmm. And the name came from a fan who wrote to me, and who had seen me playing it, and he saw that I was calling it the reverse Iceman. He said, you should call it the Fireman. It's the opposite of ice.
I'm guessing he was British.
Yeah. And, well, I'm referring to the legend of Spinal Tap. You know, fire and ice, and put two together to get lukewarm water. But the funny thing was, I you know, some years went by, and I thought I really should do something nice for him, because he named the guitar.
Sure.
He used the one that came with Fireman. So I had one that I just got, and I had customized it with my slide magnet, which is a magnet underneath the pickguard. Uh-huh. And I sent it to him, and I'm pretty sure I put a slide on there so he knew there was a magnet.
Yeah.
But, you know, wasn't really thinking about it. And it turns out he's not only a guitar player, but he's a singer.
Okay.
And so, you know, he likes to have the straight mic stand, not the boom.
Right.
And so, you know, that straight mic stand made of metal. You're seeing where I'm going here. And he didn't have the slide on.
Right.
And he's singing along, and all of a sudden, the mic stand gets a little too close to the magnet and goes, and knocks him in the teeth.
That's funny.
I think he was okay, but he was surprised.
But it still makes for a good story.
So, you know, I recommend leaving the slide on as a barrier for the straight mic stand or whatever other metal object you get too close to.
Right. And are those DiMarzios?
Yeah, these are both DiMarzio PAF. Air Classics. Sorry,
Classics, okay.
they changed names over the years.
Yeah.
But now they're called Air Classics, which is to me like the most indestructible, good sounding in any guitar. You just can't go wrong with it.
Yeah.
So over the years, obviously, you've tinkered with a lot of things. You've single coil pickups, different string gauges, different guitars. But it seems like one of the constants is Ernie Ball Strings. Is that something you've been using forever, or is it more something you realize these were the strings for me?
Kind of forever.
Yeah.
And there's string gauge is really important. I'll hurt myself if they're too heavy.
Okay.
And also, like, depending on what your tuning is, and that's on this tour we're doing now, there's a lot of different tunings.
Okay.
And so I ended up taking a set of 8.5s,
Ooh.
which is unique to Ernie Ball, I think. And it's to me, it feels like a set of 8s, which is my favorite. But since we tuned down a half step,
It's like a
that
rubber
loosens
band.
it up. So the 8.5 gets it just right.
Okay.
But then I found we have a lot of stuff there where we do like the drop D tuning. So when I was at home, I had a bunch of 46 gauge, just low E strings.
Sure.
And I brought those. So right now I've got a 46 on the bottom, and then everything else is from the 8.5 set.
Oh, okay.
And it's kind of nice because you don't bend that low and that much.
Unless you're Zach Wild or something.
Like you do the higher stuff. So
I would never have guessed that you had 8.5 on there. It just because your hands are big and everything looks like it's easy for you to play. I would feel that's light for me. Were you using like 11s at one point? Like
at one point I used 11s, I used 10s, 9s, everything.
It's just whatever works.
But one thing, I'm 57 years old, and sometimes I need a little help because my hands, or it could also be that I don't work out in the same way that I used to.
Got it.
When I was a teenager, I would do like physical exercises, sit there and play Spanish fly all day. Just every day for like an hour, I sit there and do pinky workouts, and that's just not that interesting to me anymore.
Sure.
So I still do that a little bit. Like right before I go on stage, I'll do what's the one? I sing to Bob Dylan.
Okay. Everybody must
get stoned.
That's a good one.
And that's a workout right there. I'm already feeling it in this cold room.
Yeah, it is cold in here.
But to me, like the vibrato is the most important thing. I really set up the guitar with like action that's higher than most people would expect.
I was going to ask for slide.
In order to be able to, and the 6 frets where you test it.
Okay.
So you pretend you're in G, and just start bending, And if you can easily grab it and you're not going like,
fretting out,
you're not slipping off, then you're good. So, and the way to do that is like loosen up your truss rod a little bit.
Okay.
Because that has more of an effect on this part of the guitar.
So you like a little more relief.
Than this does.
Yeah.
And, up there, it's almost always easy to grab the string. But it's nice to be able, play with Lenny Kravitz.
Dig in.
You want to be able to get a grip on that.
Yeah.
And if it's too low, it's really hard. And if the action is too high.
Well, that makes sense.
I'm sorry, if the strings are too thick.
Right.
Yeah,
and
totally makes sense.
There's the Steve Ray Vaughan legend.
The 13s or whatever the hell he is.
Yeah. And
Telephone wire.
if you can do it, do it. But
Not me.
There's the B.B. King legend too, where he's picked up Billy Gibbons' guitar and he said, "Why are you working so hard?"
Yeah, exactly. Well, Billy's using 7s.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't.
Those are fun sometimes.
7, yeah.
Wow.
Have you done it? Have you tried it out?
I've done it.
Well, because Ernie Ball does make. It seems like they make every gauge under the sun. They're like, if someone wants it, we'll make it. And I think they do have a 7 or something. It's ridiculous.
I think
One-time
that
use.
If
Yeah, it's
nothing
like
else,
hair. That's it.
if nothing else, like extremely light strings are worth it just as an experiment,
Okay.
because that way you can find out is your vibrato having trouble because of you, or because you're struggling against something that's too hard
I
to
can
put?
answer that. It's me.
Yeah, and so if you have really strings, you can find that out. Well, you can't blame the guitar anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
You
makes
can't
sense.
blame the strings.
Yeah.
You know, and it's nice to know who to blame.
Well, and it seems like there's a certain element of fearlessness with what you do. So a lot of guys will pick up another guy's guitar and go, "Oh, what do you got on here? Nines?" And it's like you almost feel like you're being emasculated.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you're like, "Look, I'm using 8.5s, and I'm better than you anyway. So what's the difference? You know what I mean?" So
But also depends on what your style is.
True.
You know, if I played open G chords the whole night on an acoustic guitar,
like
Right.
him, that's what he
you
does.
know, I wouldn't want to have eighths on the guitar because it's the tuning's not quite as stable.
Okay.
And the tone's not going to be as nice, and you know, and if I hit it hard, they're going to go a little sharp. So you know, I've got mine dialed in for doing, you know, nice vibrato and the occasional. You know, being able to do that without killing myself. So, and there's not very much of that. If I do, I really lighten up on the pick.
Well, I also noticed how you hold the pick. I mean, you're holding it almost like there's almost very
I
little.
call it the emu.
Yeah. It's really close.
And that really helps for a light touch because I can grip it loosely, but I've got enough skin on it where it's not going to fly out of my hand.
Sure.
And sometimes I'll do traditional too, especially for like if I have to do really fast. But I can't shape the tone quite as much. Like this is a great tone shaper.
For sure.
So
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. Really nice for that. And there's that mysterious Van Halen thing too, where they just that.
It's almost from the wrists. Yeah.
And that I can't do that on stage. It falls apart.
Yeah.
But I practiced that a lot, and I think it did something.
Did it break something?
David Lee Roth always used to say there's a little Van Halen in everybody.
He's right. Yeah.
I think after doing that, there's a little more Van Halen in me.
There's nothing wrong with that. So that's the question I had. I knew that strings and picks made a difference, and you answered it.
And I found that on the G3 tour, when I was doing my own set, the jam with the G3 guys at the end, and practicing like crazy in between,
Yeah.
that my callus is maxed out.
Oh, they gave all
Like
they can
my
give.
body does not have infinite callus potential.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
They get to a certain point, and that's as hard and as thick as they're ever going to get. And so I got to balance that out with, you know, with how heavy the strings are,
Right.
because I don't want to fear the bend.
Nor
How
should
often
you.
do you break strings?
Pretty much. I mean, the only time I break them is if I'm really stretching them before the show. If I'm kind of in a hurry.
Yeah.
Occasionally I'll pop a high E.
Okay.
But
no more
during the show, never.
Yeah, never.
He realized tonight you're going to break about 5 strings. Just for the record. And it'll be his fault. Which I like. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you.
A huge thank you to Paul for being here with us and to Ernie Ball Strings for making this all possible. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this and to check out the Ibanez Fireman and all the other gear mentioned in this video. Head on over to AmericanMusical.com.